Good morning, everyone. I'm Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with all of you here today. I'd really like to say that it's always a great day in Mississauga, but it's an even better one when I get to welcome a transformative investment to our community. I'd like to welcome everyone who is joining us on the city's live stream, as well as Facebook Live. Many of my council colleagues included. I know particularly Councillor Stephen Dasco is interested in this announcement down in Ward 1 because of the funding for the Lakeshore BRT. So Stephen, I know you're with us. He's done a lot of work on this file. Of course, I want to welcome our special guests as well, the Honourable Catherine McKenna, Federal Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, the Honourable Laurie Scott, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, and Rudy Cozzetto, our Member of Provincial Parliament for Mississauga Lakeshore. And last, but certainly not least, our first speaker of the day is the Honourable Omar Alghabra, Federal Minister of Transport and Member of Parliament for Mississauga Centre. I've known Omar Alghabra, Minister Alghabra now, for many years, both as a colleague and a close friend. And I'm absolutely thrilled about his new cabinet position as Minister of Transport. Minister Alghabra has been an incredible champion for Mississauga over the years, and I know he will continue to be a strong voice for our community in Ottawa. And it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the Honourable Omar Alghabra. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Crombie. It is a great pleasure to be with you here, along with my friend, Minister McKenna, and my colleagues from the provincial government, and many other councillors and MPPs who might be with us on the line. I know many have worked towards this announcement. Let me first say that we are on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Minister McKenna virtually to Mississauga. This is not her first virtual or even physical visit to Mississauga. She's been here many times, and I look forward to, when COVID is behind us, to welcoming her back here to Mississauga. And speaking of COVID has certainly been a challenging period for many of our communities. Mississauga has been grappling with the challenges that COVID has posed on us, and that's why our government, our federal government, working closely with our provincial colleagues and with our municipal colleagues to offer the support that we need. And today's announcement is an integral part of that support, as we are focused on ensuring that Mississauga keeps going with efficient and environmentally friendly public transportation. So with that, I'd like to ask my friend, Minister McKenna, and pass the mic on to her. Thank you again, Minister McKenna, for being here.
Great. Well, thank you, Minister Alghabra. It's very exciting to be able to call you Minister. And I also know that we have the whole Mississauga team here. We can't see them, but Peter Fonseca, Ikra Khalid, Sven Spegeman, Gagan Sakand, and of course, Navdeep Bains, who's done a tremendous amount in his past role as minister, and I know he'll continue. It's, of course, a pleasure to be here with Laurie Scott, a colleague with whom we've worked very closely. It is very important that levels of government work together, and certainly Mayor Crombie. I think we've made many announcements. I know you do love public transit. Getting Mississauga moving is critically important. And also thank you, Rudy Cozzetto, for joining as well. I'm speaking to you from the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples. I do wish I was in Mississauga, and don't worry, I will be there hopefully again soon. We're all working very hard to get out of COVID, which is both the health pandemic, but we also have the greatest economic crisis, the greatest recession since the Great Depression. And so that's where I see infrastructure investments are critically important. We need to be making smart investments that create good jobs, that get our economy going, and also meet our other really important and broad outcomes, whether it's making sure that we're tackling climate change and moving to a net zero future, or building more inclusive communities. And guess what? We've always built things. When you think about the Canadian Pacific Railway, to the Trans-Canada Highway, to the St. Lawrence Seaway, to the Toronto subway system, we've tackled big projects that make a huge difference in people's lives, but also in moving goods and services across our vast continent. That's the energy and ambition that we need right now. And that's why I'm so excited about this announcement today. So let's get to the announcement. I know everyone's waiting with bated breath. I'm very pleased to be joining with the province and the city of Mississauga to announce more federal support for public transit in the city of Mississauga, definitely to get Mississauga moving. When you think about public transit, when I think about public transit, I think about people. I think about people trying to get around, to go get to their work, to take their kids to school. I think about people going to stores. Maybe it's different right now, but we're going to get back to that. And it is critically important that we have good public transit. That is good for jobs. And when we build public transit, there are good jobs. It's good for our economy. It's also good for climate change. We absolutely need to tackle emissions in the transportation sector, and good public transit is certainly part of that solution. And we need to build more inclusive communities. That's exactly what our plan is doing. We're providing more than $62 million to support 12 new projects that promote jobs and investment that will improve the public transit experience. We're talking about a bus rapid transit corridor to get people around faster so they choose buses as an irresistible option. Upgrades to hybrid and electric buses, critically important. We know that hybrid and electric buses will power the economy of the future. That's not just getting people around, but that's also buses that are made in Canada. That's also our supply chain with the United States, a huge opportunity. And in something that probably people would like right now, some of the other projects include making it more efficient and friendly to get on buses, including heated bus shelters. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that will appreciate that. Les investissements dans le transport en commun à Mississauga sont un élément essentiel de la croissance de l'économie. D'une collectivité où les gens peuvent se déplacer de manière moins coûteuse, plus propre et plus rapide, et c'est essentiel pour attaquer au changement climatique. C'est pourquoi le gouvernement du Canada fournit plus de 62 millions de dollars pour soutenir les 12 nouveaux projets qui favorisent l'emploi et l'investissement tout en améliorant l'expérience de transport en commun, y compris de nouvelles stations, des autobus remis à neuf et un couloir de transport rapide par autobus. As I said, public transit needs to be an easy, irresistible option available to all. That this funding and these investments will do exactly that. They're going to make a real difference for the residents of Mississauga. And I know that's why we got into politics, to make a real difference in the lives of people. And of course, to make sure that we're thinking about tomorrow, an economy with good jobs that is growing and that's also tackling climate change. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Minister McKenna. And on behalf of the City of Mississauga, I want to thank you and the federal government for this very important investment in our city. We're truly grateful to have such a strong partner in Ottawa that is committed to building complete and inclusive communities for everyone. And now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, the Honourable Laurie Scott, who is Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure. Over to you, Minister Scott.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, and good morning, Mrs. Doing presentations together and virtually. We have many more to come and to announce. I know that my colleagues, some get to be on the squares and some do not, but Rudy Cazzetto, who's going to speak a little bit later about our projects, but welcome Rudy, welcome MPPs, Natalie Kuzendova, Nina Tangri, Khalid Rashid, Sharif Zabawi, Deepak Anand. It's a fantastic team in Mississauga this morning, and welcome to our new federal minister, Minister Galbraith. It's great. Congratulations. I'm obviously pleased to do this announcement with everyone today. And as the COVID pandemic is having a profound effect on our economy, Ontario is moving forward with many key infrastructure investments and accelerating project delivery to strengthen communities and create jobs. So today is an example of how we are all partnering with the federal government to rebuild the economy and build healthy and safe communities across Ontario through federal programs like the ISIP program. I'm going to now call on formally my colleague, MPP Rudy Cuzzetto, who has the best backdrop, I think, in the screen. And he's going to talk about our investments in the projects being celebrated today. So over to you, Rudy.
Thank you for those kind introduction. I'm very pleased to be here today alongside my colleague, Minister Laurie Scott. Today is a great day for transit riders in Mississauga. Last spring, after a careful review, we nominated 12 public transit infrastructure projects to the federal government for funding under ISIP, the Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program. Today, we're celebrating the approval of these projects, which will do so much to improve the quality of life for the people of Mississauga. These projects include upgrades to our local public transit infrastructure, including new heated bus shelters that are fully accessible with new digital signage. The My Way bus fleet will also see improvements, including the replacement of engines, transmissions, and energy storage systems. These improvements will help to reduce maintenance and operation costs. And all buses will have upgrades of video monitoring and schedule systems and new bus schedule software. These enhancements will improve the safety and the convenience for both the drivers and the passengers. Public transit users will also benefit from a new dedicated two-way bus rapid transit corridor with 3 new stations. The new lanes will increase the capacity of the city transit system and support our growing population along the Lakeshore Road corridor. In Mississauga Lakeshore alone, we're adding about 20,000 people in the Lakeview Village on the site of the former coal plant. And we're adding 8,000 new residents in Brightwater on the site of the former Texaco refinery where my father once worked in 1953. While this is exciting for us, it is also a major challenge to provide the transportation infrastructure we need to support this growth. I know our province is funding $52 million today. Will help us do this. It will help to make life easier and get people where they need to go when they need to get there. I'm proud to be part of a government that has made a commitment to investing more than $7.3 billion in transit infrastructure over 10 years through the Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program. We can all agree that better movement of goods to market and people to jobs is critical for our community, our economy growth, and for our recovery. I'm thrilled that Mississauga has been given the green light to move forward on building more public transit infrastructure. And not only are we building roads, bridges, but we're also improving transit, recreation facilities, cultural centers, and local water infrastructure. Late last year, we announced joint federal and provincial funding of more than $1 billion will be available under the new COVID-19 resilience infrastructure system. This stream includes investments in long-term care, education infrastructure that will protect the health and well-being of all Ontarians. Our investment focuses on shovel-ready infrastructure projects that support stronger, safer communities and job creation. With the federal government and the City of Mississauga, I'm pleased to thank our partners for this significant investment. We will continue to work closely with the federal government to secure more project approvals, and I look forward to continuing our work together to help build better infrastructure, especially as we respond to the impact of COVID-19. Let's continue to build a brighter future for the residents of Mississauga, and we lay the groundwork for a stronger economic recovery and for a stronger, more prosperous Ontario. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rudy, MPP Cuzzetto, as well as you, Minister Scott. We couldn't have asked for a stronger provincial partner who understands the ever-evolving needs of our community. So this is a really big day for Mississauga. It truly shows that both our federal and our provincial partners understand the pressing need to invest in Mississauga's public transit infrastructure as the city continues to grow. I'm also incredibly proud that the City of Mississauga is investing more than $44 million in these projects, bringing the total investment to $158 million, all of which will go to improving transit in our city. The reality is that we really urgently needed this. Mississauga is growing at a rapid speed. By 2040, our population is going to swell to more than 900,000 residents. And in order to get people moving around our city quickly and efficiently, we need reliable and fully connected transit. We also know how important it is to give people multiple transit options. And these investments will go a long way to helping us get there. From the development of a dedicated two-way BRT along Lakeshore with a separated sidewalk and bike lanes, to rehabilitating our current fleet of buses, to transit terminal updates. All of these investments will improve public transit in Mississauga, not only making it more efficient, but also more sustainable. They will help make it faster and more convenient for residents to get around Mississauga and across the entire GTA. And we know that a modernized transit system encourages more people to choose Mississauga as a place to live, work, and invest. It encourages more businesses to set up shop here because they have the confidence their employees will have a reliable and affordable way to get to work, to and from work. But perhaps above all else, these investments are critical in helping our city reach our sustainability goals. We know that the only way that we can get there is by successfully shedding the car culture and truly embracing transit, public transit. 70% of trips into or out of and around Mississauga are done in cars or in other vehicles. And at the city, we are committed to changing that. And we are so lucky to have government partners who are just as committed as we are. These investments also come at a truly critical time for our city as we move forward with the Hurontario LRT. The LRT will form the north-south spine of our regional transit network, connecting millions of people a year to Mississauga and beyond. And I cannot underscore the importance of this project for future prosperity of our city. But you also know that the LRT doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that it will best serve residents if we have a strong transit system connecting them to the line. That's why investments like these are becoming even more critical. Once again, I want to thank both the federal government of Canada and the province of Ontario for investing in our city. We will now take your questions from the media. I do want to note that we have two of the city's transit leads joining on the call, and they are Jerry Chi and Alice Ho, and they're here to answer any of the technical questions. So Daniel, over to you to moderate the Q&A with the media. I don't know if, Daniel, are there questions from the media? I know Daniel had
apologies. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Daniel.
Okay, your first question is from Isaac Callan at The Pointer. Isaac, go ahead. I'm having trouble unmuting him. If one of IT can help me unmute Isaac.
I think I've unmuted myself there, Daniel.
Oh, okay, perfect. There you go, Isaac. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My first question is probably for Minister McKenna, Minister Scott, and perhaps MPP Cazzetto. Just looking at the full ISIP application that the City of Mississauga submitted in October 2019, it totaled just over $800 million, and it included the Dundas BRT, included more than $300 million for bus replacement services. This is obviously a really exciting announcement for the people in Lakeshore, but it's a pretty small dip in the ocean compared to the rest of that application. So in terms of the Ontario government, can you give us an update on where the rest of those projects are at? Have they been nominated to the federal government? And if so, then Minister McKenna, could you tell me where those applications are at the moment as well, please?
I'll do my best, Isaac. I know that maybe Rudy would have more exact knowledge of where some of the transportation projects are. A lot of what you mentioned, and all what you mentioned actually, is for the Ministry of Transportation at the province. So I know that we're definitely committed to the Hurontario line, have made many announcements on that, and it's, I believe, in process, but we can get back with exact details for you. This is what we're announcing today is the fit under the ISIP program, or the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. So this was brought through with City of Mississauga. So this is their needs that fit into the ISIP program. So there's lots of moving parts here, but incredible commitment by the province of Ontario on transit. And in this part today, it's the 3 levels of government that are moving forward on this $51.5 million project that involves 12 projects under that large title and amount of dollars. So I don't know if Rudy, if you want to add any more to that, or just go to Minister McKenna.
I could add just a little bit more. In fact, under the Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program, ISIP, as of January 2021, Ontario has nominated over 760 projects to the federal government, and the federal government has now approved over 500 projects that have been asked to be approved. So that's all I wanted to add to that point as well.
Well, I'm always happy to add to the good story. So, I mean, obviously, this is an important announcement, $62 million in public transit. But before this announcement, we've committed over $65 million to 71 projects. It depends on how you count them, because Rudy is, they're obviously within those projects, many projects. We have more that we are reviewing. And I think this just shows our commitment to infrastructure. That we have invested 13 times more than the previous Conservative government federally invested in public transit, because we know how critically important public transit is. We've also made a commitment to 5,000 electric buses. So I know Mayor Crombie is excited about that, about the opportunity, because we know that we need to be using the technology of today. It's not even the technology of the future, made in Canada in many cases. The Prime Minister, so we announced our climate plan. We're going to exceed our targets. This was in December. I was very pleased to be with him. He also mentioned an announcement that's upcoming on permanent public transit funding. And it just shows our real commitment as a government to public transit. It is a hard time for public transit right now, obviously, because of COVID-19, but we need more people to take public transit in the future. We need to make it an irresistible option. And I want to give a shout out to the city. So Bonnie, first of all, Mayor Crombie, sorry. I want to give a shout out for your sustainability plan, because we know that cities are critically important to tackling climate change. 40% of emissions are within your control, but you're also being very thoughtful. So I did not know that part of the BRT, that you have separated bike and cycling and walking lanes, that you have, we've invested in active transportation projects. We need to look at transportation as a whole. It's not just public transit, it's how do we get people to good public transit. So something we certainly believe in. We want to continue to see more projects, and we're going to continue to prioritizing investments in public transit. Get Mississauga moving.
Follow up?
Yes, am I still unmuted? Perfect. That question, just to be clear, Minister Scott, is under the ISIP application. The Dundas BRT and bus replacement are both ISIP applications from the City of Mississauga. On a slightly broader level, is the question of public funds in infrastructure as a city the size of Mississauga continues to grow. And it's true of the Hurontario LRT as well. We're seeing development applications popping up all the way along Hurontario as a result of that investment and that promise. And I want to know, really from all 3 levels of government, Mayor Crombie as well perhaps, is what considerations are being given to policies like land value capture to make sure that taxpayer money going into these systems is being returned by the developers as they invest in the cities as well, so that the people of Mississauga and taxpayers across Canada are getting the best deal possible?
Well, why don't I start? Certainly, Isaac, land value capture is a tool we're looking very closely at. I think only the City of Toronto is using it now. We are, it's one of those tools we'll have to get permission from the provincial government to employ, and it's something that could help us go a long way to help us build service and meet our infrastructure and transit needs. So certainly a tool we're looking at. As you know, there's an incredible amount of growth occurring along the Hurontario corridor and in the downtown core as well. We have 25 new towers breaking ground in the downtown, and then part of the Oxford OMERS project, another 30 towers. So of course, we will need to service those. We're very hopeful that we can bring back the loop around the downtown core with respect to our LRT and then fund, of course, the BRT along Dundas, as you mentioned. And I know it's not part of the ISIP program, but part of the CCR fund. We did have a replacement for one of our community centers, but most importantly, that'll affect Rudy and our Councillor Stephen Dasco, is the public marina we're very hopeful to build, because we would like to put the port back into port credit. It's very important to the local community to have a public marina, because it is the deepest, largest, most natural cove port in all of Lake Ontario. So we want to put the port back in port credit and have that marina built in with future consideration for future funding as well, Isaac.
I'm happy to say something. Look, I think when you make investments, oh, sorry, Lori, I wasn't sure if you were going to say it. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Look, I think when you make investments in public transit, you need to look at it as a whole. We are talking about permanent public transit funding, and how do we link a whole range of issues, affordable housing, including, like, we need people where we're building the transit is critically important, and making sure that people have access to it. And there is huge value added by public transit, which is a huge opportunity for intensification. But I think that making sure that everyone benefits is with taxpayer dollars is certainly a real priority of our government. We've been making historic investments in affordable housing, and we need to be very thoughtful. And this is part of our frame when we think about, I repeat it all the time, but you got to triple benefits with taxpayer dollars. You need to be creating jobs and economic growth. You need to be tackling climate change and making sure we're driving to a net zero future. And you need to build more inclusive communities. And public transit is about that, but you have to be very thoughtful.
Correct. And you know, we work with the federal government. I know that you're asking about applications and the projects. I think there's 17 projects under this public infrastructure for transit stream, and they're based on ridership and information that we get from the cities. I think there's only maybe 3 that are still under review federally. So, you know, we nominated this last spring, the project, worked with the federal government, try to get approvals as fast as possible, because I know that the mayor wants to build as quickly as we can. As she said, the city of Mississauga is growing. I mean, my colleagues on the phone are very strong advocates for the needs for Mississauga. You're right, there's absolutely working with all the factors that you mentioned. You know, and I say this many times, and Minister McKenna has heard that, we welcome more infrastructure dollars from the federal government to work with the province and the municipalities to get more projects done. I mean, this overall project of ISIP is $30 billion over 10 years, and it started really in 2016. So it's rolling out, but absolutely, we see Mississauga's needs. We work with the MPPs there to get those goals. We have a lot of transit projects under different umbrellas that are occurring, working with Mayor Crombie, and hopefully if there's more availability of federal infrastructure, as our Premier has said, you know, another $100 million over 10 years, $100 billion over 10 years, we'll take it. So we continue to work forward, but I think you see today all 3 levels of government, many MPs and MPPs on the phone, working together to meet the needs of Mississauga. So it's ongoing.
Your next question comes from Steve Cornwell at the Mississauga News. Go ahead, Steve.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the updates and the comments today. I noticed, I guess it's been raised already by the speakers and Isaac as well today, but the Dundas BRT was not, or funding for the Dundas BRT was not kind of announced today. So just curious, why is that? Can we expect an announcement on that in the coming days? And I also wanted to clarify, is that one of the projects that the province has approved and recommended for the federal government? And if that's the case, kind of what is the holdup at this point?
I'm not sure who you're directing that to. It's certainly on our priority list, but we don't control which projects are approved and move forward for funding. I'm very hopeful it'll continue to be on the list and move forward in the future. Minister McKenna, you're muted.
It's like the story of my life, at least once in an announcement. So look, we receive projects from the province, and then we review the projects. And I think we're working very closely together. We've already made a number of announcements. Some projects are with us. When we have very big projects, they do need to go through a process, including Treasury Board. But look, I think stay tuned for more announcements. And I'm glad to hear that the province's huge appetite for public transit, because that's a key priority for us. As I said, the Prime Minister announced when we announced our climate plan that permanent public transit funding for the first time is something that is a priority for our government. We need to be supporting communities like Mississauga that are growing rapidly, but who need really good transit, and that is part of our climate plan. But that's also our plan for building more inclusive communities and also creating good jobs and growth.
Yeah, so today's announcement are the projects that I'm sure you've all got now that are submitted under this ISEP, and that we've, as I said, nominated last summer and have got the approval for today. Everything's evolving as we speak, and I know that the Minister of Transportation might have more information for you, but today is the 12 public transit projects for Mississauga that have got all levels of government approval, and I know Mayor Crombie and her team that are on the phone are anxious to proceed with.
Steve, follow up?
Yeah, I guess just wondering why the Lake Shoreline was approved, or why that's been approved today, but the Dundas line kind of has not. Is there any specific kind of technical issues? I guess I'm throwing it out to anyone who has information on. I'm just trying to get to why one line would have approval at this point and the other line would not.
Let me just say that I don't think there are any technical issues, Steve. It's just a question of priorities and allocation of funding, and I'm sure there are many municipalities that are also looking for their projects to be funded. So we're just very hopeful it will be funded in the future.
I would say this is one of those, I think, stay tuned. So, there are a lot of projects. This is a large investment, $62 million, but I know the city of Mississauga has prioritized other projects, and we are working with the province because I think it is critically important. As I say, I'm happy to make announcements as often as I can with Mississauga.
Our final question comes from Cormac McSweeney at 680 News. Just hang on 1 second and I'll unmute him. Go ahead, Cormac.
Yes, hi. Congratulations on this joint announcement on improving public transit in Mississauga. However, my question will be on a different topic and for the federal Minister of Infrastructure. Minister McKenna, you were former Environment Minister and now Minister of Infrastructure. I'm just wondering what your reaction is to the Biden administration canceling the Keystone XL pipeline, and what are your next steps as a government? Is litigation or trade avenues through NAFTA on the table? What do you think of Kenny's call for possible trade sanctions against the U.S. if we don't have a proper avenue to state Canada's case?
Well, look, I think first of all, we certainly welcome the new Biden administration. I think it's very good for the relations between Canada and the U.S., and there is no more important relationship. And look, our relationship with the United States is bigger than one project. There are many opportunities to be working with the United States. To be honest, I'm working extremely hard with my department to identify opportunities on clean infrastructure. So there's going to be a discussion between the Prime Minister and the President, but let's be clear, this was a campaign commitment of President Biden. And my focus is really on how can we do even more together that's critically important for tackling climate change and making sure we hit net zero. That is a top priority for us, is a top priority for the Biden administration. And I see huge opportunities for provinces, including Ontario, Quebec, BC, Manitoba. They have clean power transmission lines. Those are very big projects. We can help power the clean energy that the United States needs. I'm from Hamilton, so I care greatly about the auto sector. We made a great announcement, and a shout out to our previous minister, Minister Baines, former Minister Baines, where he was part of looking at how do we get opportunities for electric vehicles and electric trucks. Big announcement between GM and Uniform. That's the kind of opportunity we need. We are manufacturing. We have the ability to manufacture the vehicles of the future. And let's talk about minerals. The minerals that we need for the economy of the future, whether it's lithium or magnesium, we have these minerals. So I think that we need to look at what are the opportunities that can move us forward. I'm sure there will be a discussion with the Prime Minister or the President on that project, but the relationship is much bigger than that. And that's going to be good for Canadians. That's going to be good for Canadian businesses. That's going to be good for the Canadian economy. And that's going to be good for our planet.
And just as a follow-up, so should we read into that remark and the statement from the Prime Minister about acknowledging that this was a campaign promise, that you're not going to launch any strict action against the U.S. as a result of this decision? And does this increase pressure on the government to try and speed up the construction on the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline in order to help the Western economy and the Canadian economy in general?
I want to start off by saying that we work for all Canadians and for all jobs. The Canada Infrastructure Bank announced its first project, which was a massive irrigation project with Alberta. That there are huge opportunities for every single province with the United States. And it's critically important that we remain focused on what are wins for both countries. What are good jobs, including good union jobs? What are ways that we are going to tackle climate change? And also critically important to both countries is inclusivity and inequality, and making sure that is part of the equation. And so I think that we have many opportunities to move forward. We're looking at that. And I feel very fortunate because I've worked with many of the people in the administration, from John Kerry in the climate negotiations, to Brian Deese, who's the National Economic Advisor, to Gina McCarthy, who is doing the climate policy across the board. I think there are huge opportunities. I think it's an opportunity to move forward. And that's going to be good for the people of Alberta, and that's going to be good for all Canadians.
That concludes our questions for today.
Thank you. That concludes today's announcement. And I'd like to thank all our special guests for joining us and everyone else who has tuned in on the City's live stream and on our Facebook Live. I hope to see you all again. And thank you very much once again to our partners. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.